Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another video. So please excuse the casual vibe. If you missed my video explaining why, I will link it for you. But I have an injury, so I have to take it easy for the next few days. But I wanted to talk about some of the updates with Meghan and Harry that have just come out. So let's begin with International Women's Day. Meghan Markle posted a photo of Lily and herself on the beach taken by Harry. Never mind the cringe of saying Papa Sussex. That's just the worst. That is the worst nickname I could imagine. Harold is much better. And for those of you who still pester me in the comments, I call him Harold because it's a reference to Spare. Prince William teased Harry by calling him Harold. That is why I use it. But anyway, this I found interesting. Last year she posted a photo of Harry and Lily. This year she posted a photo of her and Lily. And it's International Women's Day. So I get why she's posting a photo of Lily instead of Archie. But remember the last time she posted a photo of her children, it was just Lily also. So for a couple who whines about privacy and claims that privacy is their top priority as much as they do, it is weird for them to continually post photos of their children, and it's particularly peculiar if you are someone like Meghan who's like, oh, I'm not going to post anything online and we want to keep our kids private, then you'd think you would be particularly cautious about what pictures you do choose to share. And the fact that she has such an imbalance developing of posting Lily so much more frequently than Archie, it's beginning to look bizarre. Because there's so few photos, then why is there such an extreme imbalance? I think we've seen at least 2 to 3 times more photos of Lily than of Archie. And we've seen more of Lily's face than Archie's face in those photos. So the only time I think we really had clear photos of Archie's face were the beach video incident where some bystander had posted a video of Archie at some surf school event on the beach. And it wasn't like an authorized thing. It wasn't Meghan herself. And I think they were taken down shortly thereafter. I can't remember. But that's really the most recent time that we have seen Archie's face. Meghan's never posted Archie's face since he got to be like childhood age. She did when he was a baby a couple times. But Lily, we've seen her face a lot more, and just the larger volume of pictures. It's a very strange choice to not be conscious of that and how that will come across, because it could come across as favoritism. It could raise questions amongst the public as to why she's not showing Archie as often. Is there something going on? I wouldn't want that speculation about my child. I wouldn't think that's fair to him. So I find that to be very, very strange, and from a PR perspective, just an obvious mistake, because it's so easy to just kind of think in your head, oh, well, I'll just take turns, or every other picture sort of a vibe needs to be one of them together, and then every other solo picture sort of a thing. So I just think that's a bit odd. But on a deeper level, I found it interesting when you contrast Catherine, Princess of Wales' posts for International Women's Day. At least the last few years, it's been highlighting women who are outside her family. For example, last year, her International Women's Day post was about Liz Hatton, I think her name was, and her mom, who was a photographer who wanted to meet Catherine, Princess of Wales, and who sadly passed away from cancer at a very young age. So she used her International Women's Day post to sort of honor her. This year, likewise, it was outward focused. People in the community who she chose to highlight for International Women's Day. I can understand the inclination to focus it on like your child or the younger generations some of the time, or to include that. I can understand it. But when you look at the role that Catherine has, it makes a lot more sense, carries a lot more weight, and does more in terms of maximizing impact to make it outward focused, community focused, choosing people from the community to highlight. It makes a lot more sense because then she can draw attention and focus to other people and sort of, shine a light, as the press always likes to say. And so I think that's a lot more valuable use of the post than to make it just about, for example, she has Princess Charlotte at home. So I think it's a smarter move in that role. The thing is that Meghan, although she is removed from the role of a royal, she likes to pretend that she is this leader and philanthropic and wants to uplift women and all of these things. That's what she says with her words whenever she has a microphone and what she says in her posts. So you would think she would want then her posts to follow that pattern and to model them in that way where she is using the opportunity of a post on International Women's Day to uplift some women who are doing important work or who have achieved something spectacular or just whatever it is, raise awareness about something affecting women. I don't know. It just seems incongruous to how Meghan wants to be viewed in the philanthropic space to not use her International Women's Day post to highlight someone else, at least every other year. Instead, it's always very inward focused. But that's Meghan. We also have news that they have decided to return to Australia. This will be the first time in 7 years. I don't think this will go well. I think it'll be a little bit different vibe than the Jordan trip, obviously. As of right now, there's no announcement that they are working with any legitimate organization, and there's also no announcements of Archewell Philanthropies being involved because I don't think they can afford these types of trips any longer if they want to keep their philanthropic arm of Archewell alive for much longer. Then they really need to minimize trips and expenses like that. What it does say is that she's going to be joining this besties podcast or conference. I'm really not sure what this is. I've never heard of it before, but she's going to be doing a couple of events connected to them. She's going to be joining their podcast and some sort of a live event, I guess. So she gets her favorite accessory, a microphone. So we all have that to look forward to, but it seems like it's a lot more of a private trip, like a business trip, rather than anything that they're trying to make seem like a faux royal tour. But remember, the Jordan trips were not faux royal tours, and I have a couple videos that I'm going to try to get out sometime soon, diving deeper into the background and controversy of the Jordan trips. The other big news with Meghan that we have to talk about is that Netflix has dumped Meghan Markle and As Ever, completely severed ties with As Ever. They're no longer part of the As Ever experiment, as we all have anticipated for quite some time. It wouldn't make sense for Netflix to continue working with Meghan on As Ever since the show is over, especially since they decided to completely cancel With Love Meghan. There would be no way for Netflix to really justify continued partnership in As Ever at this point. It just wouldn't make any sense. But for Meghan, it's a serious, serious blow because what it shows is that there is no legitimate backing to this company any longer. And it reveals, perhaps most importantly, that Netflix wasn't seeing the sales numbers that would have kept them around. So no matter of Meghan trying to spin this as she needed to get out from under their control, that she wanted to have complete control over As Ever, I don't doubt she wanted complete control, but she tried to spin it as Ever is ready to stand on its own 2 feet and Meghan is eager to take complete control. If Netflix was seeing numbers that were going to give them profits, they would have stayed. You best believe Netflix would not have walked away from a profitable deal. That would be bad business. That would make no sense. Just like how they wouldn't have canceled With Love Meghan if it was turning even a small profit. The fact that they left shows just how poorly the sales are going, that they are not going well. And Meghan probably wanted to continue to springboard into this international idea that she has, this fantasy that she can take this business global and it will somehow survive. She probably wanted Netflix to come in and fund that fantasy. And they were like, no. So what this really tells us is that As Ever's sales are not turning a profit. They're not going well. As we said before, they're probably slowing tremendously. And after that debacle where the stock numbers were exposed, that showed that Meghan still had hundreds of thousands of items in inventory that hadn't moved over 6 months. That is not considered a good sales metric. We had a video that went deep into that explained from business inventory perspective what sorts of pace of selling your stock would be considered sustainable, profitable, good, especially in food goods, perishables. Even though they're shelf stable, they're still perishable goods. So I will try to find that video and link it for you if you're a little bit more curious on the actual sales numbers and estimates that I was able to pull together doing some maths on what her rate of sales really was in comparison to her stock at that point. And I believe that was somewhere around January after the holidays. And so then for Netflix to finally back out from As Ever now shows that that trend has not turned around. In fact, it may be getting worse. I suspect sales have just continued to decline. Just as with Love, Meghan had some initial interest and skewed metrics of reviewers, so too did As Ever. So those first few batches of things selling was not representative of long-term sustainable sales numbers or viewership for the show. When you have somebody who is controversial, sometimes this happens where the first thing that they put out or do has enough curiosity and, reporters and news buzzy stuff going on to get some impressive numbers, or even just, oh, okay, that's pretty solid numbers in the beginning, whether it's on views or sales or what have you. But that quickly goes away because it's all about that rubbernecking, curiosity-driven clicks and reviewers, people wanting to see for themselves, is it good? Is it bad? Let's make a video about this or, an article about it. And that's it. And then it just sort of plummets after that. And the sales numbers are not sustainable and the viewership's not sustainable. And that's the trend we've seen with Meghan. And there's no reason to believe otherwise. The fact that Netflix left is a huge red flag for As Ever that it is not going well. Just like with Archewell, it looks like this year might just be the year where they finally have to shift and start, putting their fantastical, delusional ideas, packing them away in a box and stop trying to push it out into the world and force it to happen. Because it's just, nobody's into it. Even the Jordan trip was heavily criticized and it wasn't even in their control. It was completely out of their hands and it was still criticized. The WHO director guy had to come out and try to defend the trip essentially because it got such backlash in the press. So maybe this year, karma's finally starting to kick in, but leave it in the comments what you think and be sure you're subscribed so you do not miss my upcoming videos. I know they're a little bit late, you guys. I'm really sorry. I'm doing the best I can through this injury. I'm going to get those out as soon as I possibly can. So do subscribe so you don't miss them and I'll see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.